Hello, crafty friends. Today we are making a nice all-occasion card. I'm going to use a sentiment, let's celebrate you. Let's celebrate. And so that can be used for birthdays, for a congratulations card. The stamp set I'm using has other sentiments you could swap out. So let's look at what we'll be using. We're doing a Cape Cod card making workshop from Close to My Heart. No longer available, but I know many of you bought this and may have this sitting on your shelf waiting to do. But the design of the card I think is very versatile and could work with many different sets. So don't despair if you didn't get this one. Pull out another set you might have and try and make something that looks similar. So this card kit does come with a stamp set and with die cuts for all the little shells. So I've used that. For the background of the card, we're using a light blue called Periwinkle. This is 4 by 5 1/4, so it'll leave a little white border when we add it to our card base. And then just several strips of paper from this collection. This is actually just two-sided paper, so I've used 2 of those, a couple of white strips, a light brown strip, and we'll do a little stamping to add some texture to these. So let's do that first. And so this you can really use with any piece of paper that you have, or a couple of pieces of paper. These strips are 3.5 inches wide, and I've just used some different heights on these, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch. This one is 1.25 inches. This is 1 inch. This is 3/4 of an inch. And then we'll just be spacing those about 1/4 inch apart. So let's do our stamping first. For this white piece, we're going to stamp a leaf design, kind of a tropical print, with Lagoon ink. And let me just get a piece of scrap paper to put underneath that. Easier said than done. Okay. Here's a piece of scrap paper. And it's going to stamp a design that's similar to this, but a different size, really. And I'm just creating, my own pattern paper here. So go ahead and stamp in any direction, overlap a little bit, leave some white space, whatever works. So there you go. A nice homemade piece of pattern paper. I'm going to stamp just on the top flap of my envelope with the same design. I always like to, while I have the stamp pads out, do some stamping on the envelope, sometimes on the inside of the card. It just adds a little bit more of a personal touch. And when a person gets it and there's something on the envelope, they kind of wonder what's inside. I can't wait to open it. So there, just an extra little extra on my card. All right, so we have this piece done, and we're going to stamp on this little brown strip the sentiment. For this one, I'm going to use toffee ink. So it'll be a little bit darker than the paper. And I've started really trying to use different colors other than just black. I have so many colors of ink, and they all deserve to be used. So let's celebrate, since we're going to have shells on here. And just to add a little bit more fun to this one, I'm taking a white Jelly Roll pen and I'm just going to do some stitching, some fake stitches along the edge. And don't be afraid to get out your pens and your markers and just add a little bit more to the things that you're doing. This white strip I'm going to leave plain. And then one more stamping thing. We're going to stamp some texture onto this background piece. So I'm going to use same color ink as a paper. This is called Periwinkle. And the stamp set comes with this texture stamp. So it's just, you know, some lines. I don't even know what to call it other than texture. I think I want to put a little bit of padding underneath this so I get a good stamp. When you're working with the photopolymer stamps, they do a little bit better with some cushion underneath them. The cling stamps work really best actually on a hard surface. But for these, just having a little bit of give underneath it helps get a great impression. So you can see I'm just filling up my paper with this texture. Most of it's actually going to be covered anyway. But it kind of gives it a little bit of a beachy look, a weathered, maybe like weathered denim. There, I really like the way that came out. And so our stamping is done. At the moment, I'm not going to put anything on the inside of this card. And now we can just start gluing things down. So I'm using some of the Tombow liquid glue. I like this, and I like the fact that it has two sides to it. One to apply kind of a nice, very targeted, small dots. But the other end has this really nice, broad spreader kind of thing on it. That's great for something like this where you're gonna tape down or glue down, you know, a larger piece of paper. So make sure you use that end sometimes. You can get a really good coverage on that. And I have just a regular prepared card base, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So when we put this blue down, we get a nice little white edge on it. And then let's do our strips of paper. The one that we just stamped with the leaves is going to go on top. So you can see this other side, you just have finer control. So I'm going to try and leave an equal size edge around the top and the sides. It's probably like a 1/4 inch. And then I'm going to put the bottom one on next. When you're trying to space things like this with some evenness, you don't really want to start at the top and just keep going. Otherwise you get to the bottom and you don't have the right spacing. But if you go to either end or the top and the bottom first, then you can compensate for any differences in spacing when you get to the middle. Next, we're going to put the striped side up. Try and keep the even spacing and keep it straight. And then we'll have our Let's Celebrate. Sounds like I have a lisp. Oops, I got some glue down there. I'll have to be careful not to stick my hand in that. And then the last one, see, I can just fill in equally between those two spots with the white. So that's done. This is actually a very quick card. And now we're just gonna put down a couple of these shells to tie into the sentiment. So this starfish one, you can see the die cut cuts out not just the outline, but cuts some detail into the center. So I'm just lifting up these little pieces a little bit so it'll have a little dimension. And I think I'll put that one there. And I'm gonna use this little scallop shell. See, it also has some dimension. But I wanna add a little bit of color to this one first. So I'm using a tri-blend marker. This one's called Fair Skin Blend. And I'm starting with the lightest color. I'm gonna go up near the top of the shell. And I did just put my hand in that glue that I put down earlier. I don't even know if you can see this because it's a very light kind of color. And then I'm gonna use the medium in the middle. And then the darkest color right at the very bottom. It's a little bit of like a peachy, probably a skin color, actually. And this gives it a little, adds another color to the card and gives us a little bit of dimension. I'm tracing along some of the lines that are cut out. There we go. So we'll put these two down. These could actually, the first one I'm gonna glue down and the second one I'm gonna add on a dimensional. So I'm gluing the center so his little arms can stick up a little bit. And then get a couple of dimensional ones for this scallop shell. Whoops. All right, I have everything sticking together here. Put down one. All right, these generally are not this hard to use. Not quite sure what I did there. And then two, and because I already pulled the cover off of one, I'll put that down as well. And that'll make this shell just pop up a little bit. And then for final touch, we always need to add a little bit of bling. And so I just have these clear sparkles. And I'm gonna put one here at the base of my scallop shell. And another one right in the center of the starfish. And then I really always like to use three, so I'm gonna just put one over here on this white strip. So there you have it. Let's celebrate with some nice little three-dimensional shells, beautiful pattern paper, and a pattern paper we made ourselves. The background has the periwinkle texture stamps to it, and it all has lots of sparkle. Now, I just also wanted to show a couple of things you could do differently with this stamp set if you want a different sentiment. So this has just a little hello from me, a thank you, or a you're so special. And so if you wanted to use one of the different sentiments, you could use the same exact design, but just substitute either this one or this one with the tan paper and stamp your sentiment on that. So if I wanted just a little hello, I could have put that down here maybe. If I wanted the you're so special, that could also have gone there. It could go up here. The thank you, you could have put right next to it, next to the shells. or maybe down here, stamp the thank you and then stamp what I put up there around the edge using white paper. So you can mix this up. This is a really cool set, and I'm sure whatever set you pull out will have similar flexibility to it. So let's celebrate